Like email does not exist, not just email, like SMS, every CRM channel, they do not exist in a vacuum. If you are not bringing new people in, who are you going to retain? Like it just doesn't work without paid media. Complaint that a lot of people say is that, oh, too many emails are promotional, it's always a sale, la 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 la. But if you don't have any content, if you don't have any thinking behind what you're doing, if you have no sense of who you're targeting, if you have no business plan, if you have no value prop, if you have no differentiators in your business, what else can you send besides a sale? Generally speaking, my philosophy is that the message should be as long as it needs to be complete. So if you have a message worth saying, say it, but say it in the fewest possible words. Don't clear your throat. Get to the point immediately.
What do you think consumers really care about?
What's in it for them? I guess that's the first instinctive answer that comes to mind. They don't care about self-referential things, your brand story, your background, la 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 la. All of this doesn't matter if it doesn't connect to what they have to gain.
Hello, DTC enthusiasts, and welcome back to Consumers Don't Care. Today, we are talking to George Kapernaros, who is a veteran email marketer and a CXL instructor. George is no stranger to success as he recently helped one of his clients in the dietary supplement niche to generate over $1 million through emails, not in a matter of 1 year or a month, but just 1 week. Today, he's sharing his insider email marketing strategies, retention marketing strategies, and key learnings from all of his experience. This is one conversation that you wouldn't want to miss. Smash that like button if you're interested to dive in. And don't forget to subscribe Consumers Don't Care for more DTC insights and such stories. Let's get this show on the road. Hey, hello, George. Welcome to the Consumers Don't Care podcast. And I'm really happy to welcome you. And finally, that we are talking. So we'll straight away talk about the case study that you posted on LinkedIn, which was about $1 million generated in email revenue in the matter of 1 week. So yeah, quickly let's start and talk about that case study.
First of all, I thank you for having me. Fun fact, I did not post about the case study. Someone else posted about the case study first because it was like popular. And then I noticed that they did and I reacted to it. And then I posted, which is funny.
Oh, wow.
So the case study, 1 million a week. This is on last click attribution, by the way. It's not what you would see on Klaviyo. It's what you would see on analytics. Everybody wants to kind of know what happened, I guess. Well, a big part of it is that the client was very big, right? So like the paid media performance was super strong. Scale was amazing across all paid media channels, which also means that the email list was huge and there was a constant like new flow of leads coming through. I think what's most interesting for people to learn more about, because there's a lot of conversation about zero-party data in the space. This was a funnel that was collecting a lot of zero-party data. It was a quiz funnel. And the beauty of the quiz funnel is, let me put it to you like this, actually. I think if someone is in health and wellness, they should drop whatever it is they're doing and test the quiz funnel, because it allows you to take a user from, like, let's say, awareness all the way to the conversion in one simple journey, like from the beginning to the end. And every time you answer a question in the quiz, on Klaviyo, I'm collecting the data, right? And I can use this to personalize the content. I can use this to create segments. I can use this to understand the users more deeply. So it's an amazing thing. And especially when it comes to health and wellness type of projects like this one was, there's a lot of skepticism in the market, primarily because direct response marketers, they basically had, um, you know, overstating their claims for a long time, like do this and blah, blah, blah. And now this more personalized approach helps build a lot of trust with the users, and it works extremely well. So what did we do? In essence, we had what you would consider an abandonment flow. Let's call this the quiz abandonment flow. Yes. So you complete the quiz, you give your email, And then if you don't complete the purchase after the quiz, there is a series of emails that retargets you. So it's like checkout abandonment, but for the quiz. And if you think about it, the context is kind of the same, because whether it is that you're starting the checkout or that you're completing a quiz, you are showing your purchase intent. It means that you have interest in the product, basically. So imagine that this sequence goes on kind of forever in a sense. Like there are a few emails that go out in the first few days, just like you would in, like, let's say, checkout abandonment. But beyond that, there was a series of emails that kept on and on and on and on for a very long time. And in parallel to that, we were also doing a lot of campaigns during that period, because it was a high, a peak season, if you will. It was around Q4. So basically, every new user that signed up, there was a plan that they would receive emails for at least like 3 months, more than 3 months, really, in automations alone. Plus, on top of that, there were campaigns. Plus, on top of that, there was a lot of personalization within the content itself. So, and the other important component, I guess, were the landing pages themselves. I think that's a big mistake that we do in email marketing, that we care about email and like stop thinking there. But the reality is that the sale often happens on the landing page, right? So you drive people to the landing page, but if the landing page is bad, then nothing is going to happen. So we were also doing A/B tests on the landing page level.
That's great.
Like email does not exist, not just email, like SMS, every CRM channel, they do not exist in a vacuum. If you are not bringing new people in, who are you going to retain? Like it just doesn't work without paid media. So I think that there's this, I think it's extremely silly. There's this debate about, oh, should you invest in retention? Should you invest in, it's like the most silly thing ever, because you should do both. And if you don't do both, you're dumb. Your business is going to go out of business, basically. You have to be doing both. And there are businesses, like let's take furniture, right? That don't have that high purchase frequency, because you're not going to be buying a new table every week, are you? Right? Like you're going to have a need to buy like a new table, and you're going to buy it. And then until you have another need for another piece of furniture, you're not really going to buy because I'm sending you emails. The emails are just going to keep me top of your mind. And that's it. I'm not going to persuade you to buy something that you don't need, at least in most cases. Perhaps a painting, yes, you might see it in a nice picture and then say, oh, like I would like to have this in my living room. But generally speaking, it's not going to persuade you to buy. And for that type of business, like acquisition is super important. Like it just can't exist without that. So yeah, totally. Paid media is a huge component. And if you want to have great case studies like we did here, like this is a message to service providers, work with good clients. You can't save a bad business because you are good in the service you provide. You have to be working with good clients. That's the way to get good case studies.
That's a big advice. Like working with businesses who are fundamentally strong, not just as in like they have a good product or they have a good service, not one or the other, but businesses who are fundamentally strong and have a core product which people just want to purchase. And so, like, yeah, we have worked with some brands with whom it was like they were just starting out, and so we were getting sales, but there was a lot of persuasion and education that was needed. So every email that we sent, so it was like educational, informational. It was like, oh, why you should buy this product, why is it better than other products. So there's a lot of stuff that goes behind it, and once a brand does it naturally using their organic mediums and other platforms, it's much easier for you as a marketer or a performance marketer, email marketer, whatever it is, to generate good results.
Basically, what you want is to be working with people that have real businesses, right? Like not just people that get something and like just sell it online and say, oh, like let's do this
Yeah.
now, let's do something else later. Because if it's like that, then you have nothing to work with. The big
Yeah.
complaint that a lot of people say is that, oh, too many emails are promotional, it's always a sale, la 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 la. But if you don't have any content, if you don't have any thinking behind what you're doing, if you have no sense of who you're targeting, if you have no business plan, if you have no value prop, if you have no differentiators in your business, what else can you send besides a sale? So I, I'll just reiterate that you should be working with good businesses. I'm not saying this to every business is a good business, right? Like every business creates some sort of value in the market for the consumers, for the business owner by providing jobs. Every business has value. But to come to my original point, a huge part of why we have exceptional case studies, and that's not the only exceptional case study we have, is because we work with clients that are good at what they do and that collaborate with us. I call this type of agency that kind of takes whatever client, the order taker agency. You don't want to be the order taker agency. You want to be the agency that becomes a strategic partner with who you work with. You want to have a seat at the table, have a look inside their actual priorities, their upcoming launches, and then work with them to develop actual strategy and like tactics that will support them. You don't want to. Yeah, I think I made my point.
Yeah. It's pretty much clear. It's pretty much clear. You shouldn't be a order taker agency, or not just an agency, but any individual who's working with any brand. It's not just harmful for yourself as a freelancer or an agency guy, but it's harmful for the brand as well. But because you are the guy who knows much more than what the brand owner knows about your platform, the be it email or ads or whatever it is. So you should be the one
Yeah,
who is who's in the driving seat.
yeah,
Cool. And
totally.
George, you spoke about having a seat on the board or having a seat where, so you have the power to make decisions or advise client to understand what decision to take. So having Klaviyo on your side, using email marketing platform which contains a lot of data. So, what data points were so crucial that allowed you or that gave you the insights which made all like everything that you say so much more important for that brand owner?
So you're referring to personalization, am I correct? Or
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I want to know what all data, for example, if you have access to Klaviyo and you are doing email marketing for any brand, so you have
Yes,
access to a lot of data, right?
yes.
So with all that data, how do you what are the important stuff that you look at and which equips
You
you
mean like
to
yeah,
advise
in
a
terms of
customer?
KPIs. Yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of KPIs. So like one big point here is that
Yeah.
not all clients have the same level of sophistication, right? Like some of them will be using tools that are way beyond Klaviyo. And like it can be like Hyros, Triple Whale, and it can be like other things that are even more advanced. Look at dashboards and like many data sources and so on. Now, if you're just gonna look at Klaviyo, that's not going to be for every client. But if you're just going to look on Klaviyo, what I would suggest is that you look at total revenue, obviously, revenue share between flows and campaigns, total revenue in the last 60 days divided by the number of customers in the last 60 days, days between the first and the second order. Um, and then I would also take a look at the total numbers, like the total number of campaign clicks. I personally don't care about the rates so much because the rates I can manipulate like this if I want. I can just shorten the segment, make the email, like, let's say, clickbaity, and boom, it goes up. What I care about is how many people I reach, um, and that you can actually see by the absolute numbers way better than you can see with the rates. The rates are super easy to manipulate. Obviously, deliverability metrics too matter. But yeah, I think those are a good starting point. The, um,
Hmm.
the point I made about contributing strategically wasn't necessarily tied to the metrics themselves. However, it was more about defining how the goals they have can be achieved. Like, for example, if someone says, I want to increase my retention rate, I think the agency should not just execute on what the client wants to do in regards to increasing the retention rate, but should tell them that, hey, based on our experience with other or similar projects, or even if you don't have similar experience, based on what we know or what we believe to be true, this is what we recommend. So what actually happens should be collaborative, as opposed to being directed by the client. And it can often happen that, like in bigger companies, they do try to direct it. And it's at that moment when you need to push back and say, hey, like you are paying us for a reason, right? Like sit down and like, let's have a chat and let's define what we're going to do together, instead of just saying, okay, let's do what you want.
Agreed.
Did I
Agreed.
answer
Yeah,
the
that's a
question?
valid point. Yeah. Yeah, George, you did answer the question. The important stuff is not just about metrics, but understanding the goals of the customer, and you being the expert for which you are getting paid. You need to tell them how what is the best and the shortest path to reach that goal. That's important.
Yep. And then
So
besides
yeah,
sorry, just to fully cover my
yeah,
point,
yeah, sure.
besides the
Yes, carry
points
on.
I made about like those KPIs that kind of like they apply more or less to every brand. I think every brand should have its own metrics that they care about. Like for example, um, this is an actual example. A brand called Aesop, they're super big, multi-billion big. They define their active customers as those that have purchased in the last 1 year. That's specific to them, and they consider that to be true because they have like a lot of branding and equity, and they, they can afford to consider active someone that has such a wide time frame. Like if you are a drop shipper, you've lost your customers if they don't purchase in the next 60 days. It's extremely unlikely that they will purchase again. Aesop can afford to do that, but that's specific to the brand. So besides the points I mentioned, I think you should also have your own, first of all, like a North Star, that what's the one point that we care about as a company, and then what are the like individual metrics that compose the North Star.
And what would you say, like, how should a brand figure out that North Star? Like, it can be for some brands, it can be just the revenue numbers, like how much is how much revenue is retention marketing getting us, or what is the lifetime value. So again, a lifetime value is something that we'll talk about in detail. I am not sure if many brand owners even are able to find out the exact lifetime value accurately, but like coming down to that North Star. So if you're doing retention marketing or if you're doing any activities online, how do you come down to that North Star? Like what could be the process?
I think this is something that should probably not start from the agency. I think this is something that should start in house. Like whether it's the CEO or the CMO of the brand, they should more or less decide what matters to them, and then in conjunction with the agency, they should uh, build around that, if that makes sense. So it depends on what the brand cares about, really. I think it's very individual on the brand, but fundamentally, what you want to do, like if, um, again, I'm trying to simplify so that it's as relevant as possible. What you
Yeah,
want to do is reach the maximum number of people. I think that's kind of the number one goal for every seller of goods,
brand.
right? Like that's kind of
Yeah.
the
So yeah, George, let's also talk about zero party data. You've already mentioned about the quiz funnel. It's a
yeah.
very popular funnel, but zero party data is also one of those concepts which is not greatly understood in DTC industry, because many people confuse it with having such like what you call it, those some roulettes. So that is something like people confuse it with. So like some are the other thing, but it is not really clear. So talk to us about zero party data, quiz funnels. Where is it important, and how do you
Yeah.
accurately use it?
So, should I like also explain what it is? You think zero party data is basically the data
Yeah,
that
yeah,
your
can
customers
start with,
give
yeah.
you. Yeah, it's the data that your customers
Hmm.
give you. Basically, that's a way to think about it. Um, I think the biggest problem is that let me put it like that. I think there's a lot of awareness about the topic. If you talk to 10 people, they will say that we know this is important. The real problem is that they don't really know what to do with it. And this happens in two ways. It happens because they don't know where to collect it or how to collect it. And it happens that even if they do collect it, they actually don't have a plan to act on it. I was in a call last night with like a really cool brand from the US, and we were discussing they are doing some sort of zero party data collection. But here's what they do: they collect zero party data on the third email of their welcome flow. Like, what does this mean? It means that out of those that go to the website, a small portion will sign up. Out of those that sign up, a small portion will open. Out of those that open, a small portion will click. And out of those that click, a small portion will actually give you their data, right? So it's kind of irrelevant if you think about it that way. So the first step is to collect it at a point where you can reach the most people. And that's why the quiz funnel is so good. When I'm talking about quiz funnels, by the way, just to make this clear, I'm talking about a page that has no other CTA but to complete the quiz. And the best example in the market is Noom.com. It's a $1 billion company, extremely successful. If someone is curious to see how this can work, you just go to Noom.com and see the best, one of the best at least, examples there is. So if you do it like that, then you collect zero party data from everyone. And now it starts to matter way more from what impact does this have perspective, right? Because it's different if you have data out of 100 people than if you have it for everybody or like most people. So that's the first problem, that we don't know how to collect it. We should collect it at the point where we can reach the maximum number of people. Then in terms of what do you do with it, I think that fundamentally what you want to do is know two things. What was let's call it like this. What was the painful state the user was in, and what was the desired future state they would want to achieve with your product? And you can find the answer to questions by asking like two very simple questions. What prompted you to try our product? This tells you what they were experiencing. And what's the primary outcome you want to achieve with our product? If you know the answers to those two questions, you know everything you need to know to personalize the content, right? You know what brought them to you, what pain they were experiencing, and you know what they want to achieve. Now, how do you do this in the real world? You do a survey first. You start with surveys and you ask those two questions and other questions that might be relevant for you, but fundamentally you want to answer those 2 points. Then you quantify the answers. So you have 10 different answers. Yes. What are the 3 most frequent? And then you add these as multiple choice questions, either in the quiz or a sign-up form. And now you are able to see what actually users experience and what they want to achieve. And if you have that, then you can personalize the content.
Hmm. That's like really deep dive in what zero party data means. I definitely learned a lot about zero party data from this short clip that you said. So
Let,
zero
let,
party
let, let,
data with
let
that.
me let me let me just sorry, let me just give you a concrete example, right? Like, this is from a real project. You have a project that's related to weight loss,
Yeah.
and how people feel about weight loss can be extremely different. There are people that
Hmm.
just like want to lose weight, and they're active and they are healthy and they're just having some extra pounds. And there are people that feel very bad about this, that like nothing they do works, that they can't control their cravings. Like, those are very two different states. Now imagine that you have both of those users entering your funnel. If you try to communicate with both, you are going to disappoint one of the two.
Hmm.
So if you have this data, if you know their health state, their mood state, if you will, then you can personalize the content in a much more effective way. Like, if you are someone that struggles to achieve the target that you have, opening up my email by saying, I know it's been a roller coaster, boom, it builds empathy immediately with you. So that's type of personalization. And there's this narrative that, oh, this is too much work. Like, why would we do this? Just send campaigns, bro. Like, don't care. Like, this is too complicated. This is just theories. It's not. It's not. And if someone wants to see that, I can prove it to them. Just message me and prove it to you. It's not hard to set up. It's really not hard to set up.
Yeah, but like it is sometimes hard on the visitor. For example, if a visitor is just like going to a website, they want to purchase a product, they saw one of your ad and they just want a 10% discount and want to purchase a product. So, is it like that, George, the quiz funnel or collecting zero party data when a visitor comes to a website is a great strategy all across industries, like no matter what you're selling, it's a great strategy of including zero party data? Or is it like for specific industries, like you said, for weight loss and something related to
Yeah.
health or something related to beauty and something like that?
It's a beautiful question that you're asking. I'm not arrogant enough to say it will work everywhere because I haven't tested it everywhere, right? Everywhere I've tested it, it has worked. And if you think about it, like from a strategy perspective, what we're talking about is no different than you signing up to, let's say, MailChimp, and MailChimp asking you, how are you going to use your product? Are you going to build campaigns? Are you going to do calendars? And then personalizing the onboarding for you. So if you think about it that way, the strategy, the thinking applies more or less to every context. What users want essentially is to experience the value of your product. Doesn't matter what the value is, that's what they want. And if you can help them experience the value of your products, then it should help conversion rates and it should improve their experience. The problem is that not the problem, but what you're saying about them just wanting the discount, etc. It's totally true that it can be the case, but this has to do more about how your ads connect to the landing page and whether a quiz makes sense with those ads on that landing page than the quiz itself being the problem. So if you had a custom funnel that had ads that led to a quiz, like take this quiz, then that wouldn't be the issue. So the problem is in the disconnect,
Mm,
not in the quiz itself, I believe. That being said, what we've also done, it's not just about quizzes, but I don't want to make this about the quizzes. You can also collect data like this through pop-ups. Like, for example, we have, we mostly work with health brands, specifically women's health brands. So we have a brand that it's related to period pain, basically. And we have a little pop-up that says what sparked your interest in like the brand name, and then there's options that are related to period pain. And then after that, there's a discount. And we've tested it. So it's like a pre-engagement step that collects, and then there's like the discount. And we've tested this and it outperforms the plain discount.
mm,
So it's not necessarily true that just the discount is what you should go and do. I think a
yeah,
big
and
part is how you frame things. If you frame things well,
mm,
like from a conversion copywriting perspective, right? Like how you ask the question and how do you make it relevant basically to the visitor? Then I think you can go very far.
mm, right, that's a valid point. Also, George talked to us about striking a balance between sales and communication. So, doing emails, not just doing emails, any platform using which you can communicate with a consumer, be it SMS, be it
Yeah.
emails or push notifications. There's always a point when the person or like who is sending that email, or like is that a marketer or whoever it is, he or she has to decide what should we optimize for. Should we optimize for revenue, or should we optimize for the message or the impact that we want to clearly communicate? So it can be like, if you want to optimize for revenue, it has to be very short email. Or if you want to optimize for communication, it has to be long, because we can't put a long and important message in 2 lines. So how do you strike a balance between generating revenue and communicating what is important? How do you strike a balance between both of these?
So the question is more about how lengthy should the content be, right? Like that's kind of the
Not exactly length. I'm talking more about the mindset of how you should think, because
yes,
generating revenue is something which is one of the top priorities. But at the same time, you can't go bang, bang, bang. You just have to send emails that generates massive revenue. You
yeah,
also
I
have
see.
to plug. You also have to communicate about the brand. You also have to fill in those content emails. So how do you strike a balance between that? That is what I want to know from you.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very interesting question. So, like, generally speaking, my philosophy is that the message should be as long as it needs to be complete. So, if
Mhm.
you have a message worth saying, say it, but say it in the fewest possible words. Don't clear your throat. Get to the point immediately. What I see, I've actually trained a lot of copywriters because I started my career as a copywriter. And what I see often is exactly this, that they kind of clear their throat in a sense. Like they make like introductions and la 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 la. And it suddenly becomes super long. And what this does is that you're losing those that are schemers, that are not like reading the whole thing. It's kind of yeah, you're losing more than half of the audience, I would say. So say what you have to say, but say it in the fewest possible words. Now, if the fewest possible words of your specific message are many, use many words. That's okay, but don't waste words. That's the first part. In regards to sending content related to the brand or like educating users, etc., I think the way I think about this, and I think it's slightly controversial, but I think um, I genuinely do not believe that this has to be different than emails that have sales. Um, a good example of what I mean, like in the real world, is a brand called Biotrust. They are sending huge emails that are like novels, and they talk about the ingredients of their products. They talk about like studies that have been done. Like it's an extremely lengthy educational email, and then it always leads to a product. What they do essentially is kind of what advertorials do. They sell, but do not sell directly. And I think that in most cases, that sort of mindset that, yes, let's talk about our brand, let's educate our users, but let's do so in a way that creates a positive association with our product. I think that's kind of the way to go. I think the approach of like, let's just share that we are like I don't know, we've been in business for 30 years and la la la. That's kind of self-referential. Nobody cares. I think. So I think you should be having educational and brand building emails, but always try to tie them to something that leads to them buying your product. Otherwise, what are you doing? Are you trying to make friends? So no, I think it might be slightly controversial, but I think, yeah, that's a more effective
Nah,
way to.
I totally relate with that actually, George. Like, it all depends on the copywriter. So if you want to get it to the easy way, you would just talk about how we build our products and so and so. So like post a piece of content and get away with it. But the actual challenge is to post a piece of content and tie it up with your product. That is where your actual skill comes up, and that is where emails are the most like I think there's no other platform which can do it as well as email can do. You can talk about the content at the same time you can talk about the offer and the product as well. So it's best to utilize it that way.
One of the things I would like to see more of from email marketers is to think also about the post-click experience. So you have this educational content, right? You don't exist in a vacuum. There's likely an SEO team, like a content team. They are writing blog posts. How do you connect what you do with what they do? What are the pages that convert the best from a content perspective? Perhaps write about them. And with the way we, not always, but the way we like to structure our, let's call them welcome flows, always include such a component. So we start obviously with sales related emails, right? Like if they sign up for an incentive, you have to give them the incentive, right? Like obviously. Then we have some topics that might be more about like the brand or the products. And then there's always a series of emails that are educational. But those go to blog posts that are selling the products, like advertorials essentially. So it creates a loop of bringing users back, educating them, and creating sales, increasing trust. And I think we should be doing more of that. Basically, I think a big problem in our space is that we don't really know marketing. We know how to use a tool. We know how to use Klaviyo. We know how to use, let's say, active campaign, but we don't really know marketing. If
Mm.
if you know marketing, you should be thinking about how do I help this business? How can I, combine everything they do to create a system that works together, not just like what are my segments, what are my 4 campaigns a month and boom, schedule, upload, buy. That, which is kind of what most people do, sadly. I
Mm.
sound a little bit
Yeah.
salty, but I'm not actually. Just to clarify, I
No,
respect
I think
everyone who
yeah,
does.
yeah, George. I think that's a valid point, and it like this needs to come from this needs to come more from people like you because it matters a lot. As an operator who is like working on emails or just SMS or whatever it is, you need to make sure ultimately what matters is what the business is making. It's not about just your platform key. I'm looking after SMS and I have generated this much of revenue and I'm done. You also have to look after what the brand is actually getting. If that revenue comes at a cost of 2x ROI from SMS, what good is that? It's not like this is nothing for the brand. It's actually like not even matching the ROI that you're getting from ads. So it's no good. So ultimately you'll have to think of as a partner, and that is when the brand will also progress as well as you can progress.
That's why I really like your model, that you have like a full stack agency, that you take care of both sides. I think it's a very interesting approach, and I could see us in the future expanding like that. I'm not sure if it's going to happen anytime soon, but I could see us doing that because it makes sense, right? It makes sense
Yeah.
to do that.
It totally makes sense, and it also gives you a lot of leverage in terms of doing things or conducting experiments that makes like there are big experiments. So it's not like you have to convince the media buying team to go and guys, I am planning to do this. I'm dying to do this, but I'm not sure how it will turn out. If you are managing ads and emails and like both acquisition and retention, you are the one who can decide and like turn the knob anytime you want to.
Totally. And I think the point about media buyers and like email collaborating is like super important because again,
Yeah,
if you think about it, the email marketing journey doesn't start on the email, right? It starts on the ad that brought them to the website that caused them to sign up.
totally.
So there has to be some sort of connection between those things. You can't be saying one thing and me saying another thing. It's stupid to do that. So
Yeah.
they should be collaborating. And I
Yeah.
think a very effective way of using uh, email is to use this as a research channel, if you will, to feed information
Mm,
back to the acquisition team. And you've probably seen like those kind of like, oh, let's do a survey on the checkout abandonment for those that don't convert. And those are good. Like you can do that. It's a little bit beginner level though. What I like to do is, and I don't think a lot of people do that. So I'll share this because it has value, I think. What you can do is use surveys specifically to craft conversion claims. So imagine that you create your segment of customers that you think are likely to have a positive opinion of your brand. So maybe it's repeat customers, right? And then you ask them questions that have yes or no answers. Has our product improved your mental health? Yes or no? Has our product increased your productivity? Yes or no? And then you have statistics. And suddenly you can make the claim that based on our survey on 2,000 users, 89 of them improved their mental health in the first 30 days or whatever it is. And if it's not good, you don't use this. If it's good, boom, you give this to acquisition, you give this to your landing pages, you use this in your emails, and suddenly you start performing way better across the board.
That's an amazing hack. I think all of the brands, no matter how big your list is, you must try some of this stuff.
You have to make
Great.
disclaimers, by the way, if you use this, that our sample size was this and that, but you can do this. And again,
Yeah.
if it's bad, like what's the worst that can happen, right? Like the results are not good, and then you don't publish them, and you learn something new. That okay, my product is bad in that sense, and I need to improve it. So
Yeah.
you win either way.
Yeah. The worst can be a customer saying, "Stop asking me these questions. Your product is bad."
Yeah, I think there's worse
Mm.
than that.
Yeah. So yeah, George, also let's talk about the elephant in the room, something that we both, not just we both, but everyone is coming across every single day: the impact of AI. What's happening with that? How are you using it with such big brands? I saw some of your, like, your portfolio brands have lists over 2 million subscribers. So with such big lists, so many things to do, not just in emails but entire operations of retention marketing. How do you deploy AI, and where do you think all this is heading?
Very hard to tell where it is heading. I really don't know where it is heading, but I believe it is here to stay. I don't see big corporations like stopping their investments or like pausing their research. I just don't see that happening. So I think it's here to stay. And I would say that if right now you are not using AI, at least on a personal level, I'll talk about the business level, but if you're not using it on a personal level, do this now, because it's important that you understand kind of how things work. So by the time it becomes more prevalent, you know what's happening. I make sometimes posts on LinkedIn about AI, and there's always someone that says, "Oh, like this is not applicable, or it takes too much time. Why don't you do it yourself?" Like, think again. Basically, it's not like that. The opportunity is massive, massive. Um, it literally, like, I wish I had more time to spend more time on AI. Um, I'm using it every single day personally. It's not part of our DNA as a company yet, in terms of what you asked, meaning that the level of sophistication we have in terms of how we use AI, it's not like standardized with like SOPs and specific. We have some, but I
Hmm.
would say there's a lot to improve. But I personally use it every single day. You can use this for research. You can use this for. I think the big mistake is that people want to use AI to get finished content. They want to write one prompt and get something that they are going to copy paste. I think that's not the best way to think about it. I think the best way to think about it is as an iteration generator. So you have, for example, you are running ads, right? You take your winning ads, you plug them inside, and you create variations of them. Or you take 5 ads of your competitors that are scaling way better than you, and you create variations out of them. And that can be hugely impactful, hugely impactful, because in terms of iteration speed, it will outperform a human every single time. And if your settings in the prompt are correct, and my perspective is that the prompts have to be super long. It's not write a sales email that targets women over 40 with a hair oil. Not like that. It has to be like the way I approach this is super long. Like I will say that act like Mr. Beast. You have a world class understanding of human attention, and you generate millions of views every single time you create. Like that type of approach is what I do. I think it creates really good output. And then with some specifications on how you want the output to be, that can also help a lot. Like, let's imagine, for example, that you want to do an A/B test. Let's imagine that you want to do an A/B test. If you just ask the AI create an A/B test that has like this brief, it will create a version. If you ask it create 5 different variations that target a specific emotion, clearly articulating which emotion is which, and rank them by the order you think is most persuasive, suddenly it becomes a lot more interesting in what it produces. So I think about AI, the opportunity is massive uh, in how you can use it. It's perhaps even more massive in how most organizations don't use it, and they need guidance on how to use it. Um, if I had more time, I would definitely get involved in that. How can you make AI part of your, like, my own business first, and then the businesses of others? Um, and sometimes I get even guilty that, oh, I should be doing more here and not doing enough. That's how
Yeah.
important I think it is.
I think that's the emotion of
And then
every single guy on this planet, George. Like they are guilty that they are not using AI enough.
yes, 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 yes. I think I would say personally, I'm more advanced than most. But again, there's so much you can, like, I will tell you something. I should not be saying this, but I will say it. I've been thinking about, I was having a talk with a friend of mine that's also in marketing. He's also like fairly reputable in his space. And we were saying that we don't have enough time to produce video content, like short form TikTok style videos, right? And we were thinking, can we use AI for that? Is this possible to do? And we started thinking of how it could go. And it actually is possible. And the process on a high level is that you take something you've written, let's say the case study that you were mentioning before, right? You plug it within the AI and you say, ask me 10 questions that would be based on this content. And then it creates questions that would be feasible to ask or answer related to the content you added. And then you have it expand on those questions with a specific format. Like, for example, start with a question that targets like a pain point, then say, this is what I recommend, so that it has a structure. And it basically creates a script for you. So there's so much opportunity that it's crazy. From a user perspective, because a lot of people are using it and they are not business owners, and like they kind of can't do what I'm describing now. They just want to improve how they use it. I think it's about the mindset. You have to treat it like it's your intern, if that makes sense. Don't really accept what it tells you. Tell it to go work, do homework, and try again. This is not clear enough. Rewrite it so that you would rate it 10 out of 10 in terms of clarity, persuasiveness, like that type of thing. Rewrite this so that it's written in a grade level 5. Rewrite this so that it's 10 times more creative. Like, you can basically keep pushing the AI, yeah, if you will. And again, the problem is that you shouldn't be taking what it says as something you copy paste and deliver. Sadly, I know there's a lot of people that do that, and personally, I don't think that's a good way to be serving your clients. It's not something we do or I want to do. Like, but you can use it to help you brainstorm. You can use it to iterate. You can use it to come up with ideas and do so rapidly. So uh, for me, that's where the biggest value is, I guess.
Hmm. And apart from text, AI is super good currently in generating text content. So if it is like writing copies for your emails or writing messages or copies for your SMS broadcasts, that is done super well, like better than 90% of the copywriters out there. But what about designs, George? So do you think AI is also like good enough in designs? There are some tools that you're looking at these days that people can use to design emails.
I think there's a workflow. I'm not really using much Mid Journey and like tools like that. I don't use it too much, but I think there's a workflow wherein you are asking ChatGPT how to create a prompt for Mid Journey, and I think that works really well actually. Uh,
Hmm.
what I've seen in terms of images can range from terrible to work of art. So I think the variance is quite huge there, and it takes a lot of practice to actually get good at this. I'm personally more interested in video than I am in terms of images. Like,
Hmm.
let's bring this back to email marketing. Maybe I saw this tool. I can't remember the name, sadly, but what it does is that it allows you to record yourself reading like a script, and then you upload the video, and then it creates variations of you reading the script and sends personalized videos to your email subscribers. So, for example, you are the founder of the brand, and you are sending a personalized thank you message to your customers by like mentioning their name and everything else. This
Yeah.
is amazing, right? It's fantastic. If you do this now,
Yeah.
it looks a little bit awkward, but in like a few months, maybe a year or so, it will be really good, I think. And I think that that's super exciting and scary at the same time, because just like you can do this, you can do other things, and that's a
Yeah.
little bit where we get to dystopian territory.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a very interesting place where AI is heading in terms of use cases. I've even seen like some email design tools as well, which kind of give you some 4 to 5 iterations of different email designs with the product of your choice and the copy of your choice. So there are also
Really,
some tools these days. Yeah, yeah, there are. I'll
they
drop
create
a
a
link.
complete email.
Yeah, yeah, it can create a complete email. I'll tell you the name of the tool. It's called as emailviz.ai, I guess.
Okay, I've never
Emailviz.ai.
done that.
So what that tool does is you just have to let it know what product do you want to include in that email, and what kind of copy do you want to have in that email. What, like, how should that sound, and it will create the complete email as a PNG and give it to you. You can just cut it and paste it inside Klaviyo and send it across.
And does it also grow the web? Like, is it based on your actual brand, or how does that work?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. You just have to paste the link of the product that you want to add in that email, and it will create the entire copy, and the email design will have that
Is it
product inside the design.
is the content good? I actually haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's good. As you said, like, it's not terrible, but it's on the range of terrible to workable. So it's not great or excellent, but yeah, it's definitely workable. So I think it does quite a lot of work when it comes to email marketing. Like, it does the work of a copywriter. It also does the work of a designer, which is like a massive problem these days. People are not getting great
How do
designers.
those? I was asking, how does this company make money? Is it like a subscription, or how does it go?
Yeah, this is a subscription based tool. So you have to pay something. I think it's a monthly subscription or something.
I'll look into this. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's
It's
quite interesting. I didn't know this. I was actually checking some Upwork gigs for email marketing, and I saw a brand who mentioned, like, do you know to use this tool? The tool is called emailviz.ai. I immediately went and checked, and I was amazed at what it was doing.
okay. Interesting. I'll look that up.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like there you go. More disruption by AI. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. More of
the
disruption
the thing with those things is that it's not just gonna be this. It's gonna be everywhere. Like just like this
everywhere.
exists, uh, maybe it's happening already. I'm not 100% up to date, but it will for sure happen in the future. Meta,
Yeah,
for example, will be creating your creatives for you. You're not gonna be doing the creatives. They're gonna boom generating them for you. So
yeah.
it's gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, already,
And
like, stuff like Advantage Plus campaigns and Performance Max campaigns. So they are kind of almost automated how you do media buying. So, like, I think it's not long enough that we will see almost everything getting automated and only a few things remaining, which we need to think about and decide.
what do you do then, though? How do you compete then? I guess is the important question. I think for me,
Yeah,
what I might be totally wrong, obviously, because who can tell, right? I think there might be a shift towards human generated content. Like if if you had the option of having a surgery by a robot or by a human, like for me, I would prefer to have an actual human involved rather than just a machine. So I think there's going to be a market for that, for like human marketing, human doctors, human whatever it is, even if AI improves by a lot. Hopefully.
yeah, sure. Maybe because in that, like, in a few years of time, anything that is created by human will be the minority, because majority
Yeah.
of stuff will be done by AI. So there's always a premium market for that minority segment. Cool. So, yeah, before we wrap this up, George, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I want you to talk about you and your agency and what it does. So, people who are interested to get services of email marketing, especially in the niche that you operate, they can just reach out to you and your agency and get your help. Talk to us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. The agency is called Yocto. Yocto.agency is the website in case someone wants to check us out, our case studies and so on. We work with health and wellness brands. Most of them are in the US or selling in the US. We do email and SMS, let's call it CRM, and we do both the strategy, the management, and the content. We can do the entire thing. Usually we work with bigger clients. Like we have clients that are like 200 plus million a year. But we work with some smaller brands as well. I would say that it kind of becomes a no-brainer to work together if your brand is like above the 5 million per year range. That's when it kind of becomes a no-brainer because there's likely a lot of things you can do to improve your CRM setup that will lead to massive increases in your ROI that would more than justify the fees we have, which are a little bit expensive. The specialty, if anything, is in what we discussed today, like personalization, advanced kind of strategy. And also, we did not really touch on it a lot, but also A/B tests. I have worked with a lot of CRO practitioners over the years, and I did used to have my own CRO department when I was employed in a company. I was the marketing director for a company, and we had the CRO department, so I know how to approach this. So that would be kind of the unique value proposition, email CRO, if you will. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's the main part. And the second part, like more from a practical side, is that we are a little bit at capacity now. So we would not be able to work with new people unless they waited for a few weeks. So if you have something urgent, no point in contacting.
Sure. I'd highly recommend anyone who is looking for an like agency which does retention marketing, email marketing, everything, because George is one of those guys whom I personally look up to when it comes to anything regarding email marketing. He's technically very sound, not just in emails but entire operations of how e-commerce industry works. So yeah, get in touch with George and see if you can join the wait list of being his client and. Yeah, and just if possible get in touch with George.
Yes, I want to say something because we spoke about the merchants. I want to speak also about the service providers, if you don't mind, like just some parting thoughts. I think that
Yeah.
the big opportunity when it comes to our space, like email marketing, service providers, agencies, and so on. And I'm saying this like with the best intentions. I want to help people. I think the big opportunity is to become a technology expert, if that makes sense. So not just work on Klaviyo, but understand the Shopify ecosystem. How do the different tools all come together? How do they connect to Klaviyo so that you can go to your merchants and say, we're not like a Klaviyo agency. We are a lifetime value agency. We know how we can build your lifetime value stack. We know how to maximize the technologies. We know how to help your acquisition. Like that sort of thing, I think is the way to go. And Klaviyo themselves are actually pushing this direction. In fact, they've been doing webinars recently that more or less talk about this topic. And I think there's a lot of value there. So if I was now starting as an agency, that's where, I mean, if I was just starting, I would first make sure that I know the fundamentals. But if I knew the fundamentals, I would see what other technologies can I include into my stack. Not just SMS, but also like review solutions, also like upsell solutions for the website, personalization solutions, like all of those things, they can enhance your value proposition to your merchants and help your merchants get better results, which by extension means they're going to be your clients for a longer time.
Hmm. That's amazing. That's an amazing addition, George. So yeah, so I would just like to end this with one question. After working with all these clients and sending emails to millions of subscribers and like taking so many surveys and talking or listening to thousands of consumers, what do you think consumers really care about?
What's in it for them? I guess that's the first instinctive answer that comes to mind. They don't care about self-referential things, like your brand story, your background, la 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 la. All of this doesn't matter if it doesn't connect to what they have to gain by interacting with your brand. So it's about personal gain. I think that's what it is about. And a big, I think, mistake that first time founders do, and I include myself in that also. Like, it's not that I'm some super experienced business person, is that they are too self-referential. They try to be smart. They think that this is what I like, so that's what everybody else likes. That couldn't be further from the truth. You have to keep things simple. If you want to have mass appeal, if you don't want to have mass appeal, you can be sophisticated and complicated up in your ivory tower. But if you want to have a brand that reaches millions, keep things simple, and yeah, what's in it for them? What do they gain out of it? Whether that's
Hmm.
something practical and functional or if it's something aspirational, doesn't matter, but it has to be about them, not about you.
That's amazing. That so well sums up what consumers really care about. Which this podcast is entirely like we have built this entire podcast based on that one idea, what consumers really care about. Thanks a lot, George, for coming on this podcast, sharing all your insights, sharing all your experience. I'm really happy that we finally were able to meet and record this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and like waiting for some time and then finally recording this podcast. Thanks a lot, George.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, guys, that's all for this episode. Meet you on the next episode. If you want to watch any of our previous podcast interviews, then I'll leave some quick links in this video. You can go and watch them. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel and go follow George because he shares a lot of great content. You can try to join the waitlist and be one of his client when he can possibly take you on. So, thank you for watching, guys. See you on the next episode.